Cardinal Blase, Cupich, and Mark Wahlberg.
Mark, I think they want you on that side.
Yeah, sit here. Hey, guys. How are you? Hi, sisters. Huh? Sure. Hi, how are you?
Well, good evening, everybody. How you doing? It's great to be with you, and I want to thank Mark for taking time from his busy schedule. He does it because you're important, and it's an evening for us tonight to come together to talk about faith. So Mark and I visited this afternoon, and we had really a great conversation about a number of things, and I can tell you he's a very normal person. Despite the fact that, you know, he's in Hollywood and does all these motion pictures and is internationally known. And so, Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about the neighborhood you grew up in Boston? What was that like?
Look, I'm a street kid from Dorchester, Mass. Grew up in St. Greg's and St. Williams Parish. My father was a teamster and truck driver. My mom worked odd jobs. I'm the youngest of 9 kids. Unfortunately, well, that's a good thing. But unfortunately, you know, because my parents worked so hard just to provide, I had a lot of time to myself. And most of that time I spent running around the streets, getting a street education. I left school at an early age. I quit school at 13. Ended up getting into a lot of trouble, being incarcerated, tried as an adult at 16, 17. And that was a big wake-up call for me, Father. So I decided, you know what, I needed to turn my life around. And a lot of people go to God, especially when they get in trouble. And, you know, when I heard the jail doors close behind me, I started praying right away. But I knew that that was just the beginning for me because I knew I really wanted to turn my life around. And I made a commitment at that day, but it was still, you know, it's still every day. It's a process, you know. That's why I start my day every day by getting on my hands and my knees and starting a time of prayer and reading scripture, and then I feel like I can go out there and conquer the world, you know, and
That's great.
or at least do my job and give back because I've been blessed so much, and I know, you know, God put me in this position for a reason. And it's not
when you said that there was a moment in which it was kind of a turning point, were there people involved that helped you? Was it something that you came to in prayer? What was a transformative moment there?
You know, it was one of those things where I didn't think there was anybody there to help me because I was always looking to the wrong people. I was looking up to the wrong people. And then once the dust settled and I was able to look clearly and I was sober for the first time in a while, I realized there were so many people around. You know, my parish priest, who I've known since I was 13 years old, Father James Flavin, who, you know, has married all my brothers and sisters, baptized all of my kids. I speak to him on a daily basis. You know, he was there, the members of the Boys Club, people who had dedicated their lives to serving, you know, their communities, had been there and were there finally, you know, and I was able to recognize the people that I should have been looking up to and looking to for inspiration. So they were there, but of course, it was also difficult for me because I still lived in the same neighborhood. I still had to go from my house to the train station to go to work, and you know, I had to pass all my boys on the street, and you know, I couldn't run with them anymore, and then, you know, if I wasn't with them, I was against them. So I had that to overcome, but I was committed to turning my life around. And you know, the biggest mistake that I made was quitting school at an early age, because I always felt like I was at a disadvantage because I didn't have the education to fall back on. And even though as I became successful in business, I always felt like I still needed to be able to kind of have an education to fall back on, because God forbid if something happened. And you know, Hollywood and the entertainment business is difficult to navigate. So I wanted that. So I was able to go back and get my diploma at 42, which I think was as big an accomplishment as anything.
Good.
And I can tell you, going back and studying even high school at a high school level at 42, it's like starting over. You know, I was kind of looking to my young children, 7, 8, 9, 10 for assistance. But, you know, I just kind of hit the books and did the right thing and had people around that could kind of help me out.
You know, one of the things that we see so often in film and in novels is the theme of redemption. where people's lives can start all over. Today, I find in talking to young people that one of the real struggles they have is dealing with failure, because sometimes failure is very public, or maybe it's the failure of other people that fail them, and so they really don't know the path to redemption, where their life can start all over. What kind of things would you say to young folks who really feel stuck in their life and would like to come to a new way, or maybe put the past behind them, sacramentally or involvement in the church? What helps you?
Oh gosh, well, I honestly feel like, and it's been a process, because it's really a huge part of my life, and certainly a big part of my daily routine and how I start my day, and reading and praying and kind of focusing on the task at hand. But I always feel like if I put my mind to something and I really do the work, I can accomplish something. And then if things don't turn out, because I live and breathe, and my primary business is based on a lot of failure and success, right? But it's never for lack of effort. And as long as I do everything I can to do my best, then I feel pretty darn good about the effort. And sometimes I win and succeed, and sometimes I don't. But I always felt like if I didn't do everything I could to prepare, then that's when I had regret. And that's when I felt disappointed in myself. But, we are blessed to be able to have a fresh start every day. You just got to be able to kind of have confidence in yourself and belief in yourself, surrounding yourself with good people. When I realized that there was a huge community out there of believers and people that were committed and dedicated to the church and helping other members of the community and really be a support system, that was a wonderful thing. So I think not being afraid to ask for help, and searching and seeking out people that can help you, but also believing in yourself. I've seen so many wonderful stories of people who are, kids up for adoption, and they have multiple siblings in the youth services department or within the adoption system, and they're deciding that they're going to go and get an education on their own and go and take care of their family. And there's so many wonderful success stories out there. Just you have to believe and have faith and know that you can accomplish it and turn your life around.
You mentioned you come from a family of 9 children. So do I. I have 5 sisters and 3 brothers. And I always found that in the interaction with them, we needed to give each other space to grow and space to make mistakes and yet stay together. Tell me a little bit from your perspective how family life is important to you in terms of your faith, in terms of keeping you going, keeping you honest. How does that work for you?
Well, family's the most important thing. Family are, the ones that are always going to have your back. They can always call you out on everything as well. I mean, it's like my brother.
Tell me, my 5 sisters do all the time.
Well, see, I have 5 brothers and 3 sisters, so, it's the opposite. But we could always mess with each other, but nobody could mess with one another. We always had each other's back. And it's funny because my mom now, who's been through so much, is now at this point of her life really feeling like a sense of relief. And I'm the youngest. I'm 46, and she's finally like, oh God, I can finally rest. My kids are doing really well.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't tell me it's going to take this long to have peace, like real peace, because I've got a 14-year-old, an 11-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 7-year-old, and I have a 14-year-old daughter right now, and it is tough. I don't understand the hormones, the emotions, but it's the most important thing. And for me, especially with my children, a goal that I always wanted to accomplish. I wanted my kids to have a Catholic education. I wanted to have a faith-based education. That was a big deal for me. And they're all going to Catholic school. But, sometimes, we were talking about this earlier. Sometimes she may say things just to push my buttons about her lack of faith or lack of belief. But for me, I don't make them, they go to Mass with school. I don't make them go to Mass with me every Sunday. But they know that I cannot miss no matter what. I will start my day every single day in quiet for, a good 25 minutes or so. And it's just mandatory. It is. So hopefully just leading by example and them seeing how important it is and how vital it is to my existence, then that will make them kind of want to wonder why it's so important and kind of seek that kind of spirituality.
That's right.
And I think that will give them, obviously all the tools that they'll need to succeed.
Well, one of the things that is behind this re-encounter is my firm belief and my collaborators' firm belief that everybody here has a deep spiritual life. And the church needs that. Your youthfulness is there. The Pope this weekend is going to have a message to young people of North America that we're going to tweet out for you, in which he says that he is hoping that young people today, people your age, irrigate the world with your joy and enthusiasm, because the world needs it today. And not to let anybody ever rob you of your youthfulness. There are a lot of people out there who want to take the youthfulness of kids and sell it off in some way. And your spiritual life is just too important. That's why we're doing all of this here this weekend, and why you're here tonight. So thank you all for coming. We have, Mark, some questions that some people say they want to ask, and so I think we're going to have Father Brad go out, and is Adina, who's the other one going?
Who's out there?
Cardinal, I'm here in
Okay.
the audience here, and
Okay.
Mark, what is your name, please?
Annie. My name's Annie.
And who is your question for?
Okay, my question is for Mark. May I hold this? Okay.
They
What
told
did
me
she
not
say?
to give up the mic.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm a student and I work, and I'm also a performer and a comedian, and I find it very difficult to make the time to pray, to go to Mass every Sunday. And Mark, obviously you're a very busy person. How do you make, like you said, that 25 minutes at the beginning of the day such a priority?
It's an absolute must. It is the most important thing. I will not do anything until I do that. But I'm a weird person. I'm not normal in the sense that I am very driven. I work hard. Like I said, I always felt like I had to work twice as hard as everybody else. And I was willing to work twice as hard as everybody else to find myself in the position that I'm in now. And I really feel like I'm just getting started with what I want to accomplish in my career and in business and in my life and what I want to do philanthropically. So I go to bed at 7:30, right? Like, this is way past my bedtime. Only for you,
So am
Cardinal
I.
Cupich. Trust me. And for the good Lord, you know what? I'll stay up night and day, spreading the word and spreading the message. But I'll go to bed early enough so I can get 8 hours of sleep. I'll wake up in the dark. Everybody's sleeping. My youngest, is usually sleeping on the side of the bed on the floor in a little sleeping bag. So I'll pick her up and I'll put her on my side of the bed. And then it's one of the few times she's really sweet to me. She's still half asleep. And she tells me she loves me. And then I just go in and I shut the door, and I built my own house. And I wanted to build a little chapel prayer room in my house. And I just, I go read, and then I go in there, and it's quiet time. And then after that, I'll go down and make breakfast and go to the gym. And then I usually go into my office and read some more. And then I'm preparing with my script and all the stuff that I have to do for the day. And then by that time, it's been 2.5 hours, and I go wake up the kids and get everybody ready for school, wake up my wife and my kids. And then I do everything else. So I've made calls to the East Coast. I'm in LA, so I make calls to the East Coast and kind of check in on my various business interests and stuff like that, and call my mom. That's the first thing that I do after, call my mom. I haven't missed a call with her in quite some time. But, she's amazing. She did so much. And, for her to have lost, my sister passed away the same day that my oldest daughter was born. And, parents burying their children is a very, very difficult thing. But she's now found more joy and I think has really embraced God's grace in a way that's allowed her to understand that, whether you live 50 years or 150 years, it's still a short time. And if we have God in our lives and we have eternity, that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So it gives you real hope and joy. And the ability to cope and deal with any other problems with stress or illness or things that come your way.
Amen.
That's great.
So Cardinal Cupich.
So wake up at 3:30 in the morning.
Get up in the morning. That's right.
Cardinal Cupich, we have a question for you over here. So what's your name?
Rahul.
And Raul, what's your question for Cardinal Cupich?
Well, first I want to say Marky Mark, huge fan of Entourage.
Thank you.
But for my question for Cardinal,
I hope the Lord likes Entourage.
So Cardinal, lately in my life, I've been faced with a lot of difficult decisions, and I've questioned whether or not I made the right decision. And I kind of follow faith, hoping I have. but at the same time, I've also questioned whether the presence of faith is going to get me through some of these decisions. So my question to you is, when you face difficult decisions, how do you know you made the right decision? And for instance, when you chose to be a priest, how do you know that was the right decision for you? And furthermore, did you question the presence of faith?
Well, I think, I do make a lot of decisions that have impact on a lot of people because we have 2.2 million Catholics here and hundreds of priests, 350 parishes, to over 200 schools. So there are a lot of decisions like that are weighty. First of all, I depend on a lot of people who know a lot more than I do. And I think you have to be able to tell yourself what you don't know and admit it and call on people who know those kinds of things. So that helps me, informs my decision. But with regard to the personal decision about vocation, of where my life was going to go and so on, it wasn't anything necessarily that I had a bolt of lightning about or anything else. It was kind of like peeling an onion little by little. It was like meeting a friend. Over a while, over a time, you decide that this is the friend that you want to spend your life with, much like people fall in love. So I would say give it time, but you're never going to have 100% security in your decision. When you meet somebody and you're going to this is a person you want to marry, I think that you want to make sure, or whatever vocation, that you don't put so many demands on the other person that they have to be perfect. You have your little punch list where you have to have everything to satisfy your own inquisitiveness about this. So you have to trust. You have to take a risk. Loving is a risk, and that's okay. You shouldn't be afraid to take the risk of love. And that's the same thing with the vocation of the priesthood. You had to take the risk. But as far as I'm concerned, it's worked out okay.
Father, can I,
Yeah,
Cardinal,
go
can I
ahead.
say something? So,
Yeah.
I remember when I was fortunate enough to host the Festival of Families in Philadelphia when the Holy Father came.
Yes.
And it was actually at a weird time because, I was going to church and I'd always kind of sit in the back and mind you, I live in LA, so I'm in Beverly Hills, so people recognize me and, you'll be in the middle of saying a prayer and all of a sudden somebody will tap you on the back and they'll be like, hey, I got a script for you. And I'm like, whoa, well, I don't want to be rude.
It wasn't scripture.
But yeah, but then I was like, somebody came to speak at the church and they were like, are you going to be, and they were just speaking to everybody in the church, but they were saying, are you a participant in the church, in the community, or are you a spectator? And I was like, ooh. I felt like, okay, yeah, I'm a bit of a spectator right now. I'm coming and I'm getting what I need, but I don't think I'm giving back and kind of really, reciprocating the kind of love and the support that I'm getting from the church and the community. So I said, okay, I'm gonna figure out something to do. And then literally the next day, a guy taps me on the shoulder and says, hey, you want to be an usher? I was like, oh, no. And I was like, yes, of course I will.
Yeah.
So I became an usher. And then I was like, okay, well, yeah, I'm just, making the collection. And I'm like guilting people. I'm like, hey, I put in a lot of money. You better put in a lot of money too. and then it was like, well, I kind of need to do more. And then literally 2 days later, a guy taps me on the shoulder. Hey, you want to host the Festival of Family with the Pope? And I'm like, oh my God, that's a big responsibility. They think I'm an actor, but I'm not like, I go learn my lines and, but to be able to kind of have that responsibility. And I knew there was going to be a lot of people from all over the world. I didn't want to be like mispronouncing names and embarrass the Holy Father. But I just said yes. And I committed to doing it. It was one of those things.
You took a risk.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where it was so fulfilling. But getting back to that and knowing the responsibility that you have, which is my point, and I know it's a long-winded one, I apologize. But I pray for you, and I pray for so many people that serve God because they have so much responsibility. And one of the few things, the Holy Father had no idea who I was. He knew that there was excitement around me being there, but there was nothing like the excitement for him. And I had seeing people, thousands and thousands of people lining the streets from all walks of life just to get a glimpse of him. And the one thing that he said to me was to pray for him.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, he's pretty close to God. I don't know if he needs prayers for me. But I was like, no, of course he does, because my gosh, he has so much responsibility.
Right.
And then reading about Mother Teresa and times when she had doubt, and it's difficult. But the best way to remind yourself is, just to continue to to pray and connect. And
that's what sustains me. I know there are a lot of people praying for me, and so the first thing I do in the morning is when I get up, I pray the rosary. And the reason I do that is because I know there are a lot of people praying the rosary at that hour in the world. And I feel the energy of being connected with all those people. And that helps me.
So this is my friend Jennifer over here.
Where are you?
She's over there.
Oh, there you are.
I wanted to ask you a question about your comedy, too, but I'll ask later.
Hi, I'm Jennifer from St. Columbanus Church on the South Side. Hi. This question is for both Cardinal Cupich and for Mark Wahlberg. I had to write it down. I didn't want to forget. Forgiveness is such a great gift we can give to others, but it requires us to first be able to forgive ourselves for our past mistakes. How have either of you been able to do that?
I think I probably have more things to ask for forgiveness than you, Father. Yeah, I don't think you've been locked up. You might have dodged a couple bullets, but I got caught with them. No, you know, it's one of those things where, I mean, I just really have to genuinely, I feel remorse when I've made mistakes. If I could go back and do a lot of things over, I would, and I know that I can't. So I think the way that I can kind of continue to give back and to do things for other people, and especially for the less fortunate, because again, I've been blessed in so many ways, and I think, obviously with those blessings comes a lot of responsibility, and I welcome that responsibility, and I look for ways to give back and influence people and inspire people to go out and do great things. But yes, the hard part is forgiving 7 times 70 times with especially people that are close to you that may have done you wrong, but in order to be forgiven, you must forgive. And I would say that's sometimes more difficult.
Right.
When you think about the evil and the things that are happening in the world, especially to innocent people, women, children, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Very difficult. But, I know that that's what you're supposed to do, but I also would understand, my God, being a father and something happening to one of my children, would I be able to forgive? Never mind being quick to forgive, be able to forgive. I mean, hopefully I would never find myself in that position, but it is a challenging thing. I think it's a lot easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to forgive when you've been dealt with, serious stuff.
Well, and I think, with regard to forgiving oneself, there is a point at which you've got to stop being a perfectionist to the point where you're unwilling to say that life is a journey, and that Jesus said, he just didn't say, pick up your cross and follow me. He said, pick up your cross every day and follow me. And so we have to make sure that when we fail, we get up again. And we heard this from Mark today about how he begins his day. Every day's a fresh moment. So that forgiveness of yourself is really your act of faith that God is forgiving you and you can start all over. You have to have that, otherwise you're going to be stuck. And perfectionism can really be gnawing to one's spirit. Get rid of it if you got it in your heart.
Yeah, and I think it brings me great comfort when reading, the word that God came to help the sinners and the weak, and that gives me great comfort.
And that's all of us.
And knowing as long as I can continue to grow and get stronger and be better and do more to serve.
Great.
Yeah.
We have one more question.
Oh, good.
Mark, I was at that Festival of Families. You were inspirational there as you are here. The humanity with which you talk and you accept your challenges in life is really wonderful, and keep your faith.
Thank you.
What is your name, sir?
My name is Joshua from DePaul University.
DePaul is the largest Catholic university in the United States. Maybe in the world.
I thought it was because people like the name Joshua.
We got a comedian here, Mark.
There's a couple. He's not the only one. That girl is a comedian, too. I don't know if her...
Well, Cardinal Cupich, Mark, thank you for being here tonight. My question's for both of you. And it revolves around suicide and this thought that because you make a mistake or do something wrong, somehow that means your life is over, that it's ruined. What would you say, or what advice would you give to anyone that's struggling that forgiveness and redemption are possible?
Well, you know, I've dealt a lot with attempted suicides and suicides in my pastoral life with people. It's very devastating to a family that's left behind when that does happen. But in talking to people who are contemplating it, where they think there's really no exit from their problems, you have to give them a pathway and let them know that life is bigger. You know, that cute little movie they show at Christmas time every year, It's a Wonderful Life, is not too far from the truth in terms of people getting themselves into an emotional setting where their life seems to be collapsing and they almost wish they were never born. Well, that's why it's important to be, the Word of God that Mark talks about here is so important for me, to realize that your story is much bigger than just the moment that you have. It's part of all that God's doing. God needs you. And so as you look at your own life and your sense of purpose, don't shrink it just upon the failures that you have. You're more than your failures. You're a lot more than that. The other thing I want to say is there's a high suicide rate among our military men and women in our armed forces. And so I want you to pray for them. They have a lot of pressures in their life. Whenever I have a chance to have Mass and we have the prayers of the faithful, I always include, whenever I can, a prayer for our military men and women, because they sacrifice. We don't take notice of the fact that they're in very dangerous places fighting each and every day, and they're not on the radar screen. So keep them in your prayers, and make sure when you see somebody who serves in the military, say thanks.
Absolutely. Very well said, Father.
Well, thank you, Mark, for being a part of this. It's great that you took time with us. These young people I know are very grateful too.
Oh, thank you guys. I'm fired up. You know, it's so nice to be in the presence of so many people that love the Lord. I mean, you just feel the love in the room, and it's infectious. And, you know, hopefully we continue to go out there and inspire others and invite others into this wonderful world and community that we have in Christ. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing, and it's a beautiful feeling.
And to take a cue from what Mark said earlier, don't be just a spectator. Get involved.
Yep, participate. And you know what? There isn't anything you can't accomplish with hard work and the Lord behind you. Wow, if I can, trust me. I should be a lot of places, and it should not be here. So trust me, God is so good. Thank you, Father.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Cardinal
you.
Supich and Mark Wahlberg, everyone.
Thank you. He's right well. We're good spot this way here.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Father. Appreciate the pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, sisters. Thank you, sisters.